Hello, Granny and John, and welcome to your bedtime story. Now, Nanny's going to read to you one chapter every night of her favourite story from when she was a little girl. The book we're going to look at is called The Enchanted Wood, and it's by a lady called Enid Blyton. This book is about a magical wood, and it's got lots of fairies and different characters in it. The characters in it, the three main characters, the three main people, are called Jo, Bessie and Fanny. And I'm going to read to you now chapter 1 at the start of their adventure. So I hope that you are snuggled in bed and that you're listening very, very carefully. Here we go. So, chapter 1. How they found the magic wood. Wow. There might be trolls there too. So, there were once 3 children called Jo, Bessie and Fanny. All their lives they had lived in a town, but now their father had a job in the country, so they were all to move as soon as they possibly could. "What fun to be in the country," said Jo. "I shall learn all about animals and birds." "And I shall pick as many flowers as I want," said Bessie. "And I shall have a garden of my very own," said Fanny. When the day came for the move, all the children were excited. A small van came to their door, and 2 men helped their father and mother pile everything into it. When it was full, the van with their mother, hats and coats and everything to go, they went with their mother to catch the train to the station. "Now we're off," cried Jo. The country," sang Bessie. "We might see fairies there," said Fanny. The train whistled and chuffed out of the station. The children pressed their noses to the window and watched as the dirty houses and chimneys raced by. How they hated the town. How lovely it would be in the clean country, with flowers growing everywhere, the birds singing in hedges. "We might have adventures in the country," said Jo. "There will be streams and hillsides, big fields and dark woods. Oh, it will be lovely." "You won't have any more adventures in the country than you'll have in the town," said their father. "I dare say you might find it rather dull." But that's where he was completely wrong. My goodness, the things that happened to those 3 children. They arrived at last at the tiny station where they were to get out. A sleepy-looking porter put their 2 bags on the trolley and said he would bring them along later. Off they all went down the winding country lane, chattering loudly. "I wonder if we've got a garden," said Fanny. But before they reached their new home, they were tired out and they could not be bothered to say a word more to each other. Their cottage was 5 miles from the station, and as the children's father could not afford to do anything but walk there, it seemed a very, very long way indeed. There was no bus to take them, so the tired children dragged their feet along, wishing for a glass of warm milk and a cosy bed. At last they got there, and dear me, it was well worth all the look, for the cottage was so sweet. Roses hung from the walls, red and white and pink, and honeysuckle was all around the front door. It was lovely. The van was at the door, and the two men were all moving the furniture into the little house. Father helped while Mother went in to light the kitchen stove and make them all a hot drink. They were so tired they could do nothing but drink hot milk, eat some toast, and tumble into their roughly made beds. Excuse me. Joe looked out of the window, and the two girls in their small room were asleep. And Joe too, suddenly, in his tinier room, he was asleep too. What fun it was to wake up in the morning and see the sun shining in strange windows. It didn't take Joe, Bessie and Fanny very long to dress. Then they were out in their little garden, running through the grass that had grown so long and smelling the roses that grew all around them. Mother had cooked eggs for them, and they ate their breakfast hungrily. "Oh, it's lovely to be in the country," said Joe, looking out of the window at the faraway hills. "We can grow vegetables in the garden," said Bessie. "There will be glorious walks all around," said Fanny. "Just like you and John and Freddie, and how you go on your little walks." That day everyone helped to get the little house straight and tidy. Father was going to go to work the next day. Mother hoped there would be some time to give someone to give her washing to do, and then she would make enough money to buy a few hens. That would be lovely. "I shall collect the eggs each morning and evening," said Fanny happily. "Let's go out and see what the countryside's like," said Joe. "Can you spare us for an hour, Mother?" "Yes, run along," said their mum. So off the three children went, out of the front tiny gate and into the lane. They explored all around and about. They ran across the field where there was pink clover and it was full of bees. They paddled in a small brown stream that chatted away to itself under the willow trees in the sunshine. And then they suddenly came to a wood. It was not far from their cottage at the back. It looked like an ordinary wood, except the trees were darker green than usual. A narrow ditch separated the wood from the overgrown lane. "A wood," said Bessie in delight. "We shall be able to have picnics here." "It's a rather mysterious sort of wood," said Joe thoughtfully. "Don't you think so, Bessie?" "Well, the trees are rather thick, but they seem about the same as any others," said Beth. "They don't quite," said Franny. "The noise the leaves make is different. Listen." They listened, and Fanny was right. The leaves of the trees in the wood didn't rustle. Not quite in the same as the other trees nearby. "It's almost as if they were talking to each other," said Beth. "Whispering secrets, real secrets that we just can't understand." "It's a magical wood," said Fanny suddenly. Nobody said anything. They stood and they listened. "Wisha, wisha, 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 wish," said the trees in the wood, and bent towards one another in a friendly way. "There might be fairy folk in there," said Bessie. "Shall we jump over the ditch and go in?" "No," said Joe, "we might get lost. Let's find our way around before we go into big woods like this." "Joe, Beth, Fanny," suddenly came their mother's voice from the cottage not far off. "It's time for lunch, time for lunch." The children all felt very hungry all at once. They forgot about the strange wood and ran back to their new home. Mother had new bread and strawberry jam for them, and they ate a whole loaf between them. Father came in as they were finishing. He had been shopping for Mother in the village 3 miles away, and he was hungry and tired. "We've been exploring everywhere, Father," said Bessie, pouring him a big cup of tea. "We've found a lovely wood," said Joe. "The trees really seem to be talking to one another, Father." "That must be the wood I've heard about this afternoon," said Father. "It has a very strange name, children." "What's it called?" said Joe. "It's called the Enchanted Wood," said their father. "People don't go there if they can help it. It's funny to hear things like that nowadays, and I don't expect there really is anything strange about the wood. But just be careful not to go too far into it in case you get lost." The children looked in excitement at one another. "The Enchanted Wood! What a lovely name!" And each child secretly thought the same thought. "I shall go and explore the Enchanted Wood as soon as ever I can." Their father set them to work in the overgrown garden. Once they had finished their meal, Joe had to pull up all the tough thistles, and the 2 girls had to weed the untidy vegetable bed. They spoke to one another in joyful voices. "The Enchanted Wood! We knew there was something magical about it. I guess there must be fairies there," said Fanny. "We'll do some exploring as soon as we can," cried Bessie. "We'll find out what those whispering trees were saying. We'll know all the secrets of the wood before many weeks passed." And that night, at bedtime, the 3 children stood in the window, peering out, looking at the dark, whispering woods behind the cottage. What would they find in the Enchanted Wood? Right, John and Gwenny, that is your first chapter of our new book that we're sharing together, called The Enchanted Wood. And soon you're going to meet lots of characters like Silky the Fairy and Moonface, and you're going to go up the magical far away tree. Now it's time for bed. You need to go to sleep. You need to be very good for Mummy and Daddy. And tomorrow Nanny will read you chapter 2 of The Enchanted Wood. Night night. God bless.